Have you ever had that feeling that you are doing all of the right things, saying the right things, checking every box, and still something feels off? Like your life looks fine on paper, but your spirit is quietly tapping you on the shoulder saying, there's more here. Today, we're going a little bit deeper into the hippie woo, and honestly, I think you're going to love it. We're talking about soul contracts, forgiveness, intuition, and Akashic Records, and what it means to trust the deeper wisdom that's trying to guide you home to yourself. If you have ever wondered whether your patterns, your pain, or that persistent inner pull might mean something more, then just stay with us. Welcome to Mindset Medicine with Dr. Tanya Berfield, where science meets soul, burnout meets boundaries, and high achieving women finally stop performing and start healing. I am a resilience and transformation expert, nervous system strategist, and recovering overfunctioner just like you. This podcast is your sanctuary for breaking cycles, rewriting stories, and reclaiming your energy, your peace, and your power. Each week, we blend neuroscience, somatic practices, and spiritual truth to help you unlearn the noise and remember who you really are. You're not broken. You're breaking free. And this is your medicine. Welcome back. Here we are. I have another fun, super special guest for us today. Her name is Dani Margeaux. She is a soul activator and a grid worker. And I am not going to lie, I'm feeling just a little bit jealous because I am sitting in very cold and very dark Pennsylvania, and she is not. She is sitting in sunny California. You can see the sunshine on her face. She just looks so light and beautiful. And I think that we're going to dig a little bit deeper into the hippie woo today, and I am super excited for it. One of the things that she talks about is something that I am really interested in, but haven't delved into yet. So we will get to that. But in the meantime, hi, Dani. How are you?
Hi, Tanya. So nice to be here. I'm so honored to co-create this magical space with you and go into the woo.
Absolutely. I'm so excited. So I was explaining a little bit to Dani before we got started of what we typically do here, super casual. So why don't we just dig in a little bit? Tell us who you are, what do you do, and maybe a little bit about what led you to that work.
Yeah, so I am a soul activator, grid worker, Akashic Records master and teacher, and really just helping bring remembrance to my clients so that they can live a life of fulfillment, freedom, and purpose. And so I was searching my whole life. I've always felt like that person who was like the outcast, person that didn't fit in, the person that was like trying to go against the grain. And so oftentimes not fitting in, not feeling welcome, feeling lonely, these energies growing up, this was very prevalent in my life. And so pretty much, I was in the mainstream, overachieving, going to school, doing all the things. And I really measured my life and my worth by how much I produced and what goals I achieved. And so
Mm-hmm.
for, all my 20s, I'm 36 now. So through, college and all my 20s, I was very much chasing that dream that I wanted. I had, I bought I bought my house at 27. I traveled to 20 countries before the age of 30. I had boyfriends. I had a fulfilling life, a community. Yet there was always something missing. And that idea of like, I want to have a purpose. What is my purpose? And how can I like just help the world be a better place? Were those like intentional things that drove me to kind of explore that world. And so,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, my journey is a 10-year personal development journey of searching for what that was. And so first it started with just changing jobs. I thought, oh, this like 10-year-old job that I did, I'm not fulfilled. I'm drained. I was working with the geriatric population, doing audiometric testing, hearing aids, helping them
Mm-hmm.
hear. It is technically durable medical equipment. So working with insurance companies. And there was this sense of fulfillment where I was able to, relate to
Mm-hmm.
this population, this demographic. And, it is someone who's in a nursing home who doesn't have a lot of contact with a lot of family often. And so I felt very like, oh, I'm enriching their life. They're able to connect again by
Mm-hmm.
hearing. But I was so drained. And so I got a life coach and I went to I decided to start studying to be a sommelier and sell
Oh,
wine.
that's interesting. That's
And then
interesting.
yeah, and I switched jobs 4 times in, like, half a decade, just trying to
Yeah, that
figure
has to
out,
be a
like,
rough
what
job.
that was. And so
Mhm.
I was a property manager, I worked for the city of Manhattan Beach in the finance department, and just, like, all an assortment of things to try to figure out because I thought my purpose was related to my career.
Yep.
What I learned, and really the pivotal moment of this journey, was the redefinition of what success means to me versus what it means for, like, the outside world. And I realized success for me to live a successful life, I actually wanted spaciousness in my day. I wanted to wake up and not be rushing
Mm.
to go to work. I wanted to start my work at 10. Like that feels good
Mhm.
to me. Waking up at 7, having spaciousness, having my tea, journaling, meditating, maybe moving, and then sliding into work and being
Mhm.
maybe my own boss. And so
Yep.
this redefinition of like quality time with my husband, quality time with myself was where I wanted to create like a foundation.
Mhm.
And so I, along this journey of, creating spaciousness to figure out what I really wanted, I moved in with an ex boyfriend who brought me to a friend who told me to go see a medium. And this was like the first time I was like, a medium. Okay. Like, I don't know what this person does, but let's go like test this out. And she was like, you need to go do Reiki. You have energy in your hands. And as a, Reiki master yourself, it's
Mhm.
like working with the unseen world for the first time was so expansive because I always felt like there was something missing. I was always searching for something more. And I was only
Mhm.
seeing the seen world. And so when my eyes open, when my mind's eye opened to this world that I had never accessed in this life, I was like, whoa, I was just blown away. My life
Mhm.
was like turned upside down. I was like, I want to know everything about this. So I did the things. I took the classes, I listened to podcasts, I joined the women's circles. And this was so beautiful to help, interest I had in mind, really dive deep into that. And so I just followed the breadcrumbs of following what brought me light, what my curiosity led me to, and the Akashic Records dropped in. And
Mm.
I am now an Akashic Records master and teacher, and it's been so fulfilling and impactful, and it's like bringing me this level of fulfillment and happiness and joy I never thought possible.
Mhm. So I have several questions that came out of that, but we're going to immediately, we'll come back to those because immediately you said the word that I was like, oh my gosh, you have to share more. Let's talk about Akashic Records just because I find this to be absolutely fascinating. And also because of, where I am geographically located, there's not a ton, like there's some, like people are awakening, I think, in a way that we didn't have before, but there's not a ton of that kind of work in my area. And so I just have not found the person that I wanted to work with in terms of this. But it's something that I'm really fascinated by. So, and I'm certain there are a lot of people listening that have no idea what the heck that word means, let alone how to describe it. So just tell us a little bit about what is that?
Yes. So the Akashic Records are the records of all souls that ever existed, past, present, future. And you can see it as like a cosmic library. That's how a lot of people describe it. And I truly believe the Akashic Records comes into your conscious awareness when you are meant to remember it, to know it. And so this cosmic library holds all your soul contracts, right? So this is like the lessons, the
Mhm.
contracts, the experiences, the relationships that you signed up for in this life for your soul to grow and expand. So it
Mhm.
is, every soul has a soul template. And by uncovering and accessing this spiritual space, this spiritual realm, you're able to access the lessons, the clarity, as well as the guidance from your spirit guides. And so it is a high vibrational space where you are able to connect deeper to yourself, your intuition, and develop your cosmic soul language to communicate with the unseen world.
That's beautiful. And I think too, like no matter where you're at in your spiritual journey, whether it's you're all the way or you're no way at all and not quite open to this, we all have heard sort of the saying like the same lesson will present itself to you over and over and over again until you learn it. I personally believe that that will happen over lifetimes until we are ready till we're ready to appreciate the lesson, to learn through it, to move through it, and then to grow through it. I think that that's really important in terms of what you're talking about. Are there any examples or like
Yeah.
things that you would share about how this has worked for you?
Yeah, so I will give you an example. For example, let's say one soul wanted to come down, and through their soul line of all these several incarnations, family is going to be like the thing that
Mm,
their soul is exploring. So let's say there's a book called Journey of Souls by, I think, Michael Newton, Michael something. And this is really beautiful to show you kind of like how the soul evolves and reincarnates. But let's say you got family, that was like your theme. So let's say you are born into life as a mother and you have a husband and you have kids. And so family, you might experience betrayal, cheating, you might experience deep love and acceptance and
mhm,
unconditional, togetherness, and then you might feel the polarity of that, which is like the hate and the betrayal, right? So through
mhm,
lifetimes, you might become the mother, you might become the father, you might become the son, you might become the daughter, you might become the dog. And these
mhm,
soul families, these people you have contracts with, you've chosen to reincarnate again and again and again and again and play out certain lessons, really beautiful, really loving, and maybe really hard and really challenging. And so, this karma that your soul is unraveling through lifetimes, from a soul perspective, you're just experiencing. The soul, there is no good or bad. It just wants to understand and evolve and know how to experience
mhm,
these polarities. But as a human level, it's very frustrating. And so, in this cycle, for example, maybe you're living a really easy life and you're like, oh, this is so beautiful. And I just have so much love in my life. This is maybe that life that you have that good karma where it's like, oh, I've already
mhm,
had a lot of hard lives. But then maybe you're in a really challenging situation where it's hard to find a partner or it's hard to keep a partner. Or you're not able to communicate, and speak your voice. And maybe that's like what you're meant to learn and grow through in this lifetime, speaking your truth and, take feeling worthy to take up space in your relationship and maybe becoming a mother or a father, whatever that is, right? And so this lifetime for you is maybe you've had good ones, maybe this one's a little harder. The way in which your soul wants to experience this is just it's to learn the lesson so that you can move through it with as much peace and flow and harmony in your life. And so how can you use this maybe betrayal, this cheating, this hardship and reflect deeper into yourself and utilize that to grow and learn more about how you navigated this relationship and how you want to navigate it in the future and really utilize as a tool to who you want to become. And so that
mhm.
if that were to happen again, you are able to move through it with more maybe compassion for yourself, maybe forgiveness of how you acted, maybe
I
forgiveness
just
for
wrote
your
the word
partner.
forgiveness. I won't go back to
So that's just one
that.
example. Yeah, just one example
Yeah.
of how you can utilize this past life karma, this high level Akashic lesson to just
Mhm.
be a better, more evolved, grounded person.
I think that I shared, like, I've heard lots about this and, like, how it can have to do with your past lives and the lessons that you've learned, but something that you said also just sort of sparked something else for me that I hadn't thought about before, and that's so many people I feel like have a drive for something, right? So maybe it's motherhood, maybe it's achievement, maybe it's success in career, maybe it's relationship, maybe I think that many of us have this drive to achieve this thing, whatever this thing is for you. And I've got it very it's like a bad bug that I can't get rid of sometimes, that it's around success, it's around achievement of career, and I have spent a long time working through that and trying to let go of some of the expectations, because I think some we often think that it comes from like the story that was created for us, the narrative that was created for us, how we were brought up. But I actually makes me question, because why do I of all people have this drive when that is not like that's not typical in my family? Not to say that they're not successful, they are, but they don't have this like I'll drop everything to be successful in career in a way that most people will not, and I don't love that about myself, and I've spent a long time working on it, and so and I think about that in terms of people that feel that way about, like, the drive to be a mother from a very young age, like, that is the thing, or to be an athlete, or to be like, we have lots of us have these, like, passions, I'm saying in quotes, that maybe aren't passions as much as they are something that's left over from something else. What do you think about that?
Yeah, and I think the point of this, right, is like, so you were mentioning like the trauma maybe as a child created these beliefs and these narratives that made us want to be maybe XYZ, but you're saying that success, it actually doesn't come from this current lifetime or from your childhood in this lifetime. So it's like, there's like, to understand more about me, how can I understand where this is coming from? And that's where that
Mhm.
past life um link is. And so Many Lives, Many Masters is a great book about this, where this like psychiatrist
Mm.
was like reading, or he was putting his client into like these hypnosis states, and she was like anxious, she was burnt out, she was like really not being able to be with like her 9 to 5, her coworkers, and she started like remembering lives that weren't even in this life, that was had an energetic imprint and influence of how she was acting out here. And so, yes, you can work on it like somatically with your nervous system, right? Like
Mhm.
you can work
Yep.
on the fear if you do parts work, internal family systems, work through that and try to clear it that way. Yes, that's a way you can do that. But for
Yep.
me, I always wanted to know why. Like, what was the root cause? For me, that's just how my brain works. Like,
Mhm.
yes, I can work through the symptoms, but what is like really what's driving this? And so in the Akashic Records, I'm able to like go back to a past life that maybe um like the energy of success, right? Maybe like there was a vow you took that like I wanted to be poor or something. And
Mhm.
so like in this life is just the contrary. Like, no, I want to actually feel safe in like the abundance that I have and make a lot of financial money, right? So it's like just giving you a perspective to help you understand yourself better, so that you can
Mhm.
kind of know why your soul is experiencing or feeling this like drive to be a mother or be successful, etc.
Mhm. That makes so much sense to me. Um, there was something else I just thought of that you were talking about. Oh, I know. So this morning, because we're recording this in February. So this morning I was recording a podcast episode that will go out on Monday, as I do like some with guests and then some without. And for February, the theme has been self-love. And so, it doesn't have to be about, the romantic Valentine's love. We need to take care of ourselves first. And the thing that I was talking about with around that this morning is this is a mindset issue. This is a safety issue. And so our nervous system has to feel safe in order to move through that. But I think that there's more to that story. So, haha, everybody, I told you in February this is what we were doing. But in March, I'm saying we have to go deeper. So I think that that's sort of just interesting, is there's a tie that while you can do all of the things to make your nervous system feel safe so that you are able to do the somatic practices, whatever it is, because I do a lot of that too. Sometimes, though, maybe there's something else that has to happen. And I've done some of my own work around soul contracts and mostly around experiences that I've had in this lifetime and people that need to be forgiven, which is why I wrote that word down, as I said earlier. And some of them are not alive any longer. And so I can't do that with them now. Or some of them are alive, but they're not willing to have the conversation with me. And it's not even something that they should feel guilty or responsible for. I've had some experiences that had a serious impact on me or something that I needed to heal. And so in order to do that, I had to do some of the work that allowed me to release that in terms of this whole contract. And then I had to offer them forgiveness. And that was the other thing that I talked about in the episode that I recorded this morning, is forgiveness. And we did it without even necessarily having to forgive anything in particular, but instead using the Ho'oponopono prayer, so that you're just doing general forgiveness for yourself and anyone else that you feel needs to have that from you. And then I will also say that I do that for other people. I've got a grandmother who's struggling with some things. And I feel like I'm going to say this, and I feel like I shouldn't say it out loud. My people, if my family is listening, they're going to be like, I can't believe her. But I feel like she's ready to let go and it's her time, but she's afraid. And so how do we get her comfortable enough to be able to do that? And that's, my family's not hippie woo, so they're not necessarily wanting to hear me talk about that. But all of that to say is I think that there's something here around the theme of forgiveness and how deep that can go, and how it's maybe not just in what we're able to consciously think about right now.
You said so many beautiful things that I want to reiterate and reflect back to you, because I think it's so beautiful. But like what you mentioned about forgiveness, right? So I just did some inner child work about like maybe resentment with my mom when I was in high school,
Mm.
and how like controlling she
Mhm.
was and had a low social EQ, and how I wasn't able to express myself. And so that part of me felt so stifled. And right now I'm even like obviously experiencing a part of that. And so I was able to
Mhm.
just go back and do the inner child work. And I don't have to call my mom in and be like, "Hey, you
Yep.
treated me this way and that's your fault." No,
Mhm.
it's like, "Hey, 15-year-old, come here. Like, let me
Yep.
offer you that love, that compassion. Like, how did you feel?" Like, I was scared. I was alone. I felt lonely.
Mhm.
And it's like, I am
Yep.
so sorry. Like, I'm so sorry you've experienced that, but I'm here now, you know?
Mhm.
And this year for me is very much unconditional love and unconditional acceptance of self. So for
Mm.
me, my inner critic has always been so loud, judging me, saying like, regretting something, And this
Sure.
year, what I've realized, and through this inner child work and this using other people as mirrors to heal those triggers that are coming up, right? I've been
Mhm.
able to insource that unconditional acceptance for myself and others by offering myself that compassion and that love. And so
I
when that
love
inner
that.
critic comes in, and,
Mhm.
this is all about reprogramming the subconscious, right? That inner critic comes in as like judging me. And I'm like, instead of feeling guilty about it, I'm like, you know what? I'm going to offer you compassion. It's okay that you think
Mhm.
that way. This
Yep.
new perversion that I'm moving into, like she's a little uncertain, but it feels like that's not the mindset I want to have, right? Like, let me just offer compassion and
Mhm.
forgiveness of what's the saying that it is? I forgive myself for buying into the misunderstanding that I had that expectation, and my truth is whatever this
Oh, that's
truth
new to
is,
me.
that's
Yeah.
fine. Yeah, and so,
That's
I've
perfect.
been really bringing in, yeah, that, like, releasing any expectations of what I've thought and just bringing
Mhm.
compassion for myself, and I've actually noticed that like, little inner critic is, like, more gentle and more
Mhm.
soft, and it's like, that's the life I
Yep.
wanna live in, where I'm like, I accept myself fully for all of me,
Yes.
for, as part of
Exactly.
my wholeness. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that isn't that just we're always the worst critic, aren't we? I think too, and I'm quite a bit older than you are, but what I have noticed is that women in general have issues with their mothers. And having raised 3 boys, the youngest of mine is 20, and so having been through that cycle of life, what I recognize is they were growing up too. Like, they're people, they're trying to figure it out, and as children and as teenagers and then even young adults, we don't recognize that. And so many of us have work to do around that, and it's been interesting to watch that happen with my mom and I because she was 16 or 17 when she had me. Girl was a child, man. Like, that is not something I could have done at that age, or at least not done nearly as well as she did. But I never gave her credit for that until I came out the other end of this and was ready to do my own work and my own reflection, just like you were saying. And so now, and I also come from a warm and fuzzy family, and so we can't have that direct conversation, but we can dance around it. And we've had some really interesting conversations about, you know, hoping that we each see that about one another. But I also find it very interesting that I hold my dad responsible for zero. Like, he's been a part of this life, just like they've got 50 years of marriage or more at this point. And so he's here, he's doing fine, and he's had his own demons and battles. And so I have released him from any guilt or any responsibility of anything that I believe I was wronged in, which is, so what? It's happened and we're moving on and it's fine. But I will hold her, this poor 16-year-old child, responsible for all of it. And so I've done some like prayer work around mother healing, and it has been super successful. And I've helped other people be able to do that as well. Is we just have to not hold them responsible for that sort of thing. Because I think now, like, I was so not perfect raising those boys that I have, and they're pretty vocal about that at times. And they're also very funny, and we're pretty blunt with one another. But I think about, man, I hope that they will give me the grace that I'm now trying to extend to my mother and her mother and her mother, because we all just have our things that we have had to deal with. There was that, and then there was something else that you said I wanted to circle back to, but I forget what it was because it was also good.
I love what you mentioned just about, our moms did the best they could. And I
Mhm.
think it's just so beautiful to, like, come from that place of, like, acceptance.
Mhm.
And, like, I was needing something else. I was needing more emotional support as a child, but now I'm like, I feel whole, I feel safe within myself that I can give me that. Like, I can just accept her for exactly who she is now. And
Yeah.
going into the Akashic Records has helped me see, like, what our contract was, and like, by
Mhm.
her being the way she was, that was a catalyst for me to speak my truth and feel safe in speaking my truth in an authentic way. And now I'm like here, on podcasts, articulating things that I would never have been able to articulate even 2 years ago. And so having
Mhm.
gratitude for that journey as well.
It can come hard and fast, can it? Sometimes it's a little bit of a smack in the face. So I think that's one of the things I wanna go back to is, so you went from sort of, and I wanna tell you that I'm very proud of you for the way that you have handled this, because what you did in probably, 5 years, it has taken me 30 years to be able to work through, and so good for you to be able to be reflective and open enough to be able to do that. That's not an easy thing, because my story is not different, but my career changes came like once every 10 years versus, once a year, or however quickly you had to do that. Cause I've done all sorts of things, but I would power through it for very long periods of time instead of stepping back from that. But I think that's what I'm getting to is also, so you were sort of doing the career thing, you were working the gigs, and then realizing this is not the thing for you, and as you're dipping your toe in and you're going a little bit further, like following these trails, how did you ever get to a point, because I also think that just knowing that you wanted space in your day is, I think that everybody's gonna be like, "Oh, yeah, don't we though?" But we're also gonna go, "Oh, but I can't, and here's all of the reasons that I can't, because this is where we're comfortable." How did you navigate that? Because I have to imagine that was a challenge.
I think it brought me to a point of just, I can't keep living the way I've been living. And I think it was just like for 10 years, just being not fulfilled and searching my whole life for something that I thought I was going to arrive to. And all these successes and awards and achievements I thought I would have would bring me joy. And at the age of 30, still feeling that like
Mhm.
emptiness. And so I think that for me was like, I have to do something completely different and I have to because I just cannot keep going. And when I found the Akashic Records, my teacher was like, "You need to meditate for 30 minutes, 4 to 5 days a week." I was like, "Whoa, that's a lot." But I was like, "I'm
That's a
gonna do this.
commitment.
I'm
Uh-huh.
paying for this." And like, so I wouldn't do the full. I think I would set my alarm for like 15 minutes before work. I'd wake up at 6 in the morning and I would
Mhm.
just like put that in before. And then I was like, okay, that's all I can do, but that's, good enough. And I think if there's I mean, I'm sure it's that overachiever in me, right? I was like, "Oh, I wanna learn all of this." I was like, just had this desire,
I'm I'm
this
guilty there too.
overwhelming energy of like, I need to dive
Mhm.
deeper into this and there's no one stopping me. And I was just listening to Taylor Swift's The Eras tour, and she
Mhm.
goes, like, it's episode 1, your voice needs to be louder than everyone else's around you. The people who say, "You're
So
not gonna be good
true.
enough, you're not gonna make it," like,
Mhm.
my voice was so strong, I was like, "There's no way I'm gonna do anything else."
Yeah. And that the strength in that voice comes from something else too, right? Like there's alignment there, there's purpose there, it's coming from somewhere and something. I'm also really curious, the 30-minute meditation that you were sort of directed to do, was that quiet meditation? Did it matter? Was it quiet? Was it guided? Was it walking? Like how did you manage that? Because that's 30 minutes is not a small time to meditate.
Yes, so the Akashic Records, it's all quiet. It's self-produced
Oh
in your
boy.
mind's eye. So
Ah.
it was part of the self-practice of learning how to
Uh-huh.
access the records, connect to your spirit guides. So one spirit I'm very clairvoyant. I can see through, my mind's eye. So when I close my eyes and I'm like,
Mhm.
imagine a place of nature with green trees, like I can see it. And so for
Mhm.
me, it was, I think, a little easier, whereas like other people are claircognizance, they feel it, they don't see, and that's okay too. They're
Right.
all beautiful. It's
Yep.
just a different way of navigating that. So yeah, she would teach me to go hear the record. So you envision yourself elevating up, you go into this place with the library and you pull a book of, let's say, love, and you open it and you start getting information. You ask questions. Where should I put my energy today? When am I going to meet the love of my life? What past life did I block my heart chakra? You just ask these questions. She gives you a list. And so you just go for it. And so every day I'm like exploring past lives and I'm like planets and I'm like, and that's how I knew this. Obviously, this is my life's work. This is my soul was like, you need to remember
Mhm.
this. So for me, it came, quite easy, luckily. And so, yeah, it was quiet meditation of just exploration.
That's amazing. And I think that anytime that you can get yourself into quiet, that's where your creativity happens. That's where the truth comes in, like, and it's not an easy place to be. And I have noticed over the years that one of the things I will do is never sit in quiet. I'm never in quiet. Like that was just never something I did, which is probably why it took me so long, between having kids and, the whole family thing. But then I always have a book going or a podcast going or music going, or there's always something in the background. I have to be learning something at all moments of every single day. I could be out on a walk, but I better be learning something because I can't waste this time, which is absolutely ridiculous of me. I've gotten much, much better at that. And as I do some things like I wrote the book or as I was doing things, I would stop and just go to quiet. Like we're not listening to books right now. We're not listening to podcasts. And that might be for a month at a time, but I can't just keep bringing information in when I'm trying to cultivate something else. And so I think all of that to say, when you are in that quiet, when you are asking the questions, one of the things I think people struggle with is not believing what the message is that they're receiving. Can you talk about that at all? And how, like, did you
Yeah.
have struggle with that and how did you overcome that?
Yeah, absolutely. So, my how I teach my clients is like everyone has their own cosmic soul language, and we are just exploring them, awakening them, and remembering them. And so, everyone has a specific gift. So, in case you're not familiar with what the clairs are and the psychic gifts that you have, clairvoyance is
Mhm,
sight. You can see the future. You can see images, symbols that your guides, spirit guides, are providing you, ancestors, past loved ones, um, clairaudience is you could hear. So in the 3D or just as thoughts in your mind that you know they're not coming from
mhm,
you. These are downloads, right?
mhm,
Clairsentience is you actually feel in your body. You might feel a resonance. And then
mhm,
claircognizance is just, that gut knowing. You just know
mhm.
without any
Yep.
logical sense that this is a divine energy. And so what we do is like, typically you'll get a download when you have created that spaciousness, right? Because their downloads can't come through. They can't communicate to you when you are
Mhm.
having all the podcasts and you are thinking and you're in your mind, right? You have to create
When you're
space so that
chaotic.
download come in. And when it does come in, typically it's like, okay, oh, I don't know what to do with that. What does that mean? Because you've never communicated with the unseen world before. Like, how would you possibly know? And so, what we do
Mhm,
is we help you expand what that means, why they're sharing that to you. How can that actually benefit you in a grounded way to move you forward along this path? And so, we expand that. You begin to understand what your language is, which clairs are coming through the strongest, so you can use them together. So, for example, my clairvoyance and my claircognizance are very strong. So I'll get an image of something, but it's not like a movie. It doesn't roll, it's just like kind of an image. I
mhm,
know some people have it very clear. And then I just know what it means. So I had to develop that though. Like, so if someone's showing me a heart, what does that mean when I'm reading someone? And then I'm like, oh, okay, they're showing me the back of the heart. They're showing me heartbreak. They're showing me love that this client, needs to put themselves out there and actually start dating again. It's like, what does that mean? You're uncovering what the language is. And so
mhm,
it's just exploring what your gifts are and expanding them in a way so that you could become fluent in communicating with the unseen world, the spirit guides, your ascended masters, teachers, loved ones, high vibrational beings.
mm, I love that. And I think too, I think all of that's amazing, but I think too is just being okay with getting the answers, right? Like, just be comfortable with that and believe in it. You don't have to second guess because we're so used to, like, I think that's perfectionism and control and all of the things that we tend to do. And so sometimes just lean into that a little bit.
Yeah, practice and consistency. I forgot your question. It was about
Yeah.
trust, not what I had
Yeah.
said, but
Oh,
yes.
that's okay. No, no, that's okay. Yes, I think you're right. You have to trust, and then when you are practicing, then it'll start to show itself over and over again, and you're like, "Oh crap, that's really happening." I think when I first started doing Reiki, what I realized was that I was I would learn people's experiences, things that, like, in current lives, traumas or experiences that really impacted them, that were blocking them from moving forward in whatever it was we were working on. And so it didn't take me very long to realize that what I was getting was right. And I would get on it and I I do most of it virtual, and so I would get on a call and say, tell me about when you were 12. What was this thing with your dad?" And then they would just start crying, and I'd be like, "Oh crap, that was really a thing. Sorry, sorry, sorry." And so it didn't take long for me to recognize I had to come in, like, first of all, I have to come in softer than just like the blunt questions sometimes. And then we have to sort of work towards, because they don't always remember or recognize what it was. And I'm not going to tell them that. They have to uncover that for themselves. So it's just been interesting and fascinating and scary and all of the things. But I think that you're right. You just have to trust and recognize that you're not making this up. You're not crazy. It's really a thing that happens.
Yeah, and like you said, over practice, you just over clients, you just figure it out. And like in
Mm-hmm.
any like whether you're going to school or becoming like a doctor or whatever that is, like you have to study for X amount of years. There's this
Right.
time period in which you are developing this new gift, whether it's a language or piano or music. So just you're not going to just know the first time. It takes
Yep.
practice.
For sure. I mean, we never start perfect at anything. That's just the way it goes, right? But I think
Yeah.
that you still can understand, like, some of the purpose behind it, some of the draw to it. What is the curiosity? Those are the things that will draw you into some of this work. Anything else that you can think of that you want to add to this conversation? Because I could go for another 2 hours, but I think we should probably not do that.
Same. I think follow what brings you joy, what lights you up, and you don't
Mm,
always have to know all the steps into your purpose. Like we
oh
are
my
literally
gosh.
meant to evolve, like explore what it
Hmm.
is, and your purpose will change. Like right now, my purpose is to teach the Akashic Records. That could be
Hmm.
completely different next year and 2 years,
Hmm.
and I'm okay with that. And so it's like, how can
Yeah.
you be okay with the uncertainty and really ground
Yes.
yourself into the present moment?
I love that so much. I think that that is exactly what I talk about too. Not I don't think that, I know that. I think that we sometimes, especially as we're working through, like, trying to find not goals necessarily, but what we're trying to get to next, we can know what that is, or like at least a base of what that is. We don't have to understand the how or the why or what's going to make that happen. Sometimes then that comes back to the trust. You just have to lean in, and aligned action is something I talk about too. Like, you have to take action. You don't just throw it out and pretend like it's going to manifest itself without any work behind it. But you have to put a little bit of effort into it, and you have to work towards it and believe that. And those aligned actions too can be small, and they can be consistent, and that will then manifest what it is you're looking for. So I think that's an important point. I love it. All right. So tell us, how do people find you? And I think you've got something. Is there a link for something that you wanted to share too?
I have a guided Akashic meditation I could send over to you if anyone is interested in
Oh,
that.
I'm interested in
I
that, so I know my people
Yeah,
will be too.
I'll send that over to you. I have a website, www.iamdanimargeaux.com, spelled the French way. I live on
Mhm.
TikTok and Instagram and YouTube, and I do have a podcast called Magic Exists as well. And yeah, thank you so much. This has been such an honor to co-create this magical space with you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for joining us. And so, for everyone listening, I will put all of those links in the notes so that we have access to everything easily. And I hope that you go and check Danny out. All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I know that today's conversation went a little bit deeper, a little more wooier, and a little more soulful than some of our episodes. But I also think that this is exactly the kind of conversation that reminds us that healing is a layer. It is a layer. Yes, we need safety. Yes, we need nervous system support. And sometimes we also need to look at the deeper patterns, the deeper stories, and the deeper truths that are asking for our attention. So if this episode resonated with you, keep your eyes open. I'm getting ready to open something new, a 3-day reset for women who are done overperforming and ready to stop bracing, start healing, and reconnect with yourself in a real way. Be sure to check the show notes for Danny's links and resources. And if this episode touched you, share it with someone who you think needs it. Until next time, I love you.